Hello, Daniel. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what are you doing right now?
Sure. Hi, Lucas. Yeah, my name's Daniel Harris. I run a project called Kendra.io. And really, this is coming from my passion to give me tools to help me live my digital life more easily.
And like you know, on DDDM FM podcast, we like to talk about the problems which were
Yeah,
solved using data.
sure.
So I need to ask, what's your problem?
What's my problem? Okay, my problem is I'm using apps and websites today, but
Hmm.
all the data is siloed in those websites. Whether I'm doing things like personal things like looking for flights or trains or dating websites, or whether I'm being more professional and trying to get my music out there and work on like registering my tracks or getting them out to different playlists and gigs. All the data is siloed within each one of those systems, and it becomes very difficult to do admin, and it takes a long time, and I'm repeating a lot of the tasks a lot. And my problem is actually shared by a lot of people, probably all of us, that we're using all of these different services that individually are quite good, but actually I just want to move my weather the information from my weather app into my travel app, or I want to take stuff from my recipe app and put it into my shopping list, or I want to have a collective shopping list with a bunch of people. It's not easy, and there's a lot of repetition, and the current sort of status quo is very service centric. It's not human user centric. And so this has become a kind of a 25-year project to sort of uncover what could be made better.
And where or are key steps you are taking to solve this problem?
Sure. Well, originally, what we were doing within the project was just talking about this. For the first almost
Hmm.
10 years, we were just going to conferences and talking about it. And I was on panels and keynotes and things like that. And then we started getting funding. We started building sort of little demonstrations of what the world could look like if there was interoperability and data portability and open protocols everywhere. And everything worked really smoothly together. And we didn't have this clunkiness that we currently have. And then we started discovering that what we were building was actually more interesting than this world that we were trying to create. And in a sense, it's a personal hub that allows people to create mini apps as easily as building a spreadsheet. That's the most simple way of saying it.
And do you have some working model right now, and you can share some more information about that?
Yeah, so we're approaching this from a number of different ways. One is to analyze what currently systems that are working with no code, local first, gradual typing, augmented data, those kind of things, and obviously concentrating on privacy and security. What are they doing? What's the state of the art? So we're analyzing that. And there's a lot of very good technical patterns for looking at what people are doing in that world. There's a lot of services out there working with no code, for instance. And then on the other side of things, we're looking at what are people doing on the internet? What are the apps that they generally use? There are shopping apps.
Hmm.
There are dating apps. There
Hmm.
are travel apps, but they're all pretty much doing the same thing.
Okay.
And what's interesting about that is, what is the pattern? Well, you're searching for something, you're selecting something, you're putting it into a cart, and you're buying it. Now,
Hmm.
but every time you go to a different app or a different website, they do it in a slightly different way, and you have to learn a different way.
Hmm.
And it's slightly confusing. And the question where we currently have is like, what happens if you just had one way of doing it? And it was your way. You could define it. Everyone could
Okay.
individually define how they want to shop and what it looks like.
I imagine you have to cooperate with different kind of companies and who have the data. What's your approach to that? Like
Yeah.
why they should share very.
So how we cooperate with other companies
Hmm.
varies depending on what their policies are. So, for example, there's a number of ways. One is they already have an API that they're publishing and allow developer access. So we sign up as a developer, and we did this with YouTube. We signed up as a developer and got access to
Hmm.
their API, and we qualified for
Hmm.
that. And then there are other companies or organizations that, for example, they use a platform that
Hmm.
has an API capable, like
Okay.
WordPress or Shopify. So they can just turn it on if we
Hmm.
request. And so, or we are building from scratch the notion of having the collaborator having an API, or
Hmm.
building it like that. So there's a number of approaches depending on the level of technology that our collaborators already have.
And what data they share? Like, I'm asking because I'm curious what kind of data about the users they can share with you, so you can use it in the other apps.
Sure. So this is not about us using their data.
Okay.
The goal for this is to build an app that allows anyone to manage their own data personally.
Okay. Okay.
We're a non-profit project building an open source tool that anyone could use to manage their own data. So it's like you're using a web browser or you're using Excel, and all the data is your own. It's not owned by
Okay.
the
Okay.
company.
Okay. So this have to be installed on the user side. Like, it won't be like on the side of the other systems. Like, the users have to choose that they want to use your approach. And
Correct.
okay.
Yes. So how it works is currently what we're doing is we're building our app using Angular
Mm-hmm.
and a JavaScript, TypeScript, and that whole stack. It's a
Mm-hmm.
progressive web app,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be wrapped up in something that allowed us to then run it as a local app, like
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that you can do with Slack, which is just basically they wrap the web app up in, and you can run it locally, or you can run it through a browser. And currently we're running it through a browser because it's very quickly easy to do updates and make developments.
Okay.
So, but actually all the code runs locally on your machine,
Mm-hmm.
and all the data is stored locally, actually using web browser databases that are currently built into the web browser,
Mm-hmm.
the web standards.
Now I get it. While working on this project, like, what were the biggest obstacles you faced? Some kind of issues with data availability, maybe some kind of technical challenge, just.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I think the biggest obstacles within this project are mainly just trying to work it out. It, it's not. We're not trying to build AI,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not as if we're working completely in the dark. And really trying to innovate. Our innovation comes in how do we connect a lot of existing technologies together in a new way that allows us to create something that is for the user rather than for a service provider. So that allows, just as you can with a spreadsheet, if I send you a spreadsheet, then you can alter it and you can send it back to me, and I can alter it and I can send it to someone else. If we could do that with apps and we didn't need developers and we didn't need app stores, I mean, it was all drag and drop, I think that would be an amazing situation. And I think it would accelerate massively the way that we lived our lives and could manage our own lives and e-commerce and business in general. I think having that kind of power where it wasn't having to go through development stages all the time. So if we could just make, our dream is if we could just make Excel a little bit more intelligent and a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more user friendly in terms of building logic rather than just data. And I think these problems that we're facing is how do we do this? We know what we want to do, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like getting it right before we really press the button to build it. And at the moment, we're very much in a exploratory phase where we're looking at different options and different qualities that we want to have within the app. But yeah, and we want to get that right. We want to get the roadmap right before we press the button to go.
And how the team is structured? Who is involved in this?
Sure. Well, I'm the project lead, and then we have three developers, Luke, Donald, and Gio. We have two outreach folk, Plum and Halima, and we've got two, I'd say, semi-management business kind of assisting me on that side of things, and that's Carlotta and Lisa. And then we've got our collaborators, including Liam and Paul and Jarvis and Dill, and the list goes on of just people that have, and Sonia, people with real problems they want to solve. So Paul's a nuclear disarmament policy negotiator. Liam ran a gallery and now is interested in the whole sort of taxation and sort of with art and ownership of creative assets. So we're covering a lot of different collaborations and pilots essentially to test the underlying theory that
Mm-hmm.
could we build all of these quite complex systems ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
quite different interfaces that are needed. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where we're at.
How your timeline looks like right now? How's your roadmap, and what do you want
Yes,
to achieve in the future?
yes. So we're working quite hard to realize real demonstrations and make them visible. So we're building them in reality using our no code Kendra IO app, and we are integrating them with APIs and databases online. And so we're building these demonstrations, and within each of the pilots, we are creating both media to demonstrate it, to show it, publishing that in social media, and also getting further collaborators, assisting the collaborators that we have to then go and share these ideas with their peers. And once we've done that, then we're going to do a roadshow, and then we're going to go out to as many and a lot of social media, and then we're going to go out to as many people as we can to say this is a good way forward to free people from the technological lock-ins that they have at the moment. And also, this is a great way for us to do business together that bypasses also the technological lock-ins that we have at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. And this was about the future. I need to ask about the past. Like, what would you do
Okay.
differently if you were about to start this project again? Because everyone is smart, after the project is ongoing or is finished. So, what would you do differently having this experience right now with your project?
That's a really good question, because a lot of the technologies that we're using right now, when we started, they weren't around, like local first, no code, the idea of augmented data, gradual typing. There was, when we started in the late 90s, some of these ideas weren't around as concepts in themselves. So it almost like we were having these ideas, but we didn't know how to frame them. And so this is not just our project. It touches with a lot of other people's projects, and there's a lot of synergy. Worst case, I hope we influence a generation. Best case, we actually get to build something. I think that's happening in so many projects all over the world, that there is a lot of bumping into each other, and it's a very fervent time. And I'm not even talking about blockchain and AI. I'm talking about just in terms of concepts about what is freedom, what is privacy, what is security, what is ownership, what is a right, how do I collaborate and don't in a secure way.
Okay. It was future, it was past. So let's go a little bit again to the future. What do you think will happen in the terms of new technologies in upcoming years? Do you think like AI will take over the world, human race will be fighting for survival, or maybe something entirely different will happen?
There was a cartoon that showed just two friends, and one of them was rude to the AI, to Alexa or whatever, and the other one was really polite. And the kind of the butt of the joke was like, well, when they kind of finally take over, I want to be spared because because I'm going to be polite to them. So I don't really deal with predictions. I deal with desires, and I desire a world where I am free to choose how I live my life. And I want that for everyone else, because it's so much more fun. It's so much more fun when we're in control of our lives. And so that's the essential question I have is, what are the steps that I need to take? What are the things that I need to do? What are the tools that I need to be in control of my life with other people? And so, respecting people's boundaries, having my own boundaries, all of these things. I think there's a lot of personal work we all need to do. And that's the kind of world I would like to see, where the tools foster that kind of world. I'm not concerned about blockchain or AI. It's very interesting. I'm always fascinated by how these technological waves come and go. And I think to a vast degree, there's a lot of good stuff that's happening, but I think there's also a lot of hype. And the hype is created both by the VCs who want to capitalize on the investment they're making. And it's also, the hype is created by the developers who, quite rightly, until blockchain came along, developers were second-class citizens. But then they became really important. And I think that's the key here is like developers can actually get up in the world. And I think that's a wonderful thing. But I also think it's capitalized on, and it's natural that it would be. Why wouldn't you want to make yourself important by producing something amazing? But actually, do we really need it? I don't know. I think perhaps I would prefer to have access to all my data and be able to use it how I wanted than something telling me advice or writing a poem for me. In actual fact, what we're doing, which is trying to make APIs more accessible. And by the way, we want to create a law that mandates that APIs have to be created for any service that has a website or an app. A human, has an alternative way to access their data via the app of their choice and the interface of their choice. So we're actually investigating ways of bringing in an actual legal framework to do that, much like the GDPR.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the kind of world that I think is going to happen because I want it to happen.
Awesome. And speaking about AI and speaking about making use of this new world we are living right now, like how are you personally using AI to make your work faster or better? Do you have some kind of specific approach, tools you are going to make your work
exactly.
better, faster?
Where we've been thinking about AI a lot. We haven't integrated it into the app yet, but we have been thinking about it, and we're looking at different ways of doing that because obviously AI is really important.
Mm-hmm.
We have a phrase, AI second, which implies human first.
Mm-hmm.
So humans are always going to be in the loop. I like the kind of phrase that the AI can use the steering wheel and then I can take over the steering wheel. But there has to be a steering wheel. So I am not going to put AI in the core of my system. So I can always take over. And I always can understand what the AI is doing. So the AI basically sits in a similar place to where I sit, and we can swap in and out. And I've seen some nice uses of how to integrate AI into a kind of an existing system where you can choose which AI you want to use for spelling or for marking up a page or for creating a poem or whatever. So you're not locked into one AI, but you can have a local AI, you can have a remote AI, and you can choose what goes where. And I think it's that power is what we want to see, is not just any operating system mandating that you need to use a certain AI, but actually building a framework within the operating system or within the app that allows the user to choose what AI for what application or for what function and when and how. That basically ties that. What I just said, it basically explains how we want to use AI. So it's going to be up to the user. AI will just be another API, and you'll be able to send it exactly the information that you want to send it and get back the results. And you'll be able to choose whether you're using a local one or a remote one. And we're also investigating our app being able to be ran headless in the cloud so that you basically have a 24-hour agent working on your behalf. But it doesn't have to be AI. It could just be like some very, I'm going to say like predictable steps that it's just running through, like a cron job, rather than something that you don't exactly know what you're going to get back all the time. And so I'm always cautious about how we approach with AI.
And finally, like based on your experience, like what advice would you give someone who's looking to leveraging data more efficiently in their business or personal life?
Well, sorry, I'm just going to have to step back from that because I can't give advice on that. But I would step back is like, do what you're passionate about. If you're using data, then be passionate about it. If you're building an app, be passionate about it. If you're doing anything, be passionate about it. Our life is a miracle. We don't know how it exists. We're probably the only ones in the whole universe. We have no proof of anything else other than that. And it's a miracle. And I'm not being religious here or dogmatic. Take the gift that we've been given and live the life that we want to. And so, and that, rather than doing something that we think we have to, let's so this is a bit of an alternative answer, but I think be excited and passionate about what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of DDDM.fm podcast and answering all my questions today. Thank you,
Lucas.